The Cottee Parker team really, I suppose, consisting of land partners, Steve, Arab Sandy, in my lie, who came in late in the process, and Alex from Place, and obviously Adam from Cottee Parker. I suppose we started with the question of what is a subtropical designed unit? I mean, we've done thousands and thousands of units, especially at Cottee Parker. In the last 10 years, we've delivered a lot of units into the market. And having just recently delivered Code Project, which is just around the corner, it was a really interesting experience to be able to try out different ideas of things that we wanted to do in our commercially based projects, but we couldn't for various reasons. I might just, here we go. I might just talk about a couple of, I suppose, big picture ideas first, and then we'll drill down to some small picture ideas, because I think for a design to be successful, it needs both a large vision and then also the small details. And I think in developing a subtropical design typology for units, we need to actually look at the big picture as well as the small picture. So the big picture items that we thought were important was to get us 75% of the units to face north, still maintain 75% of the units with good city views. So if we look down the picture, there's some fantastic city views. Sort of turning your back on the views wasn't something that we were interested in pursuing. We also were very interested in looking at the idea of unpacking the ground plane to make the ground plane far more permeable. So rather than have a large podium stacked with units on each side with a car parking sleeved in between, we chose very deliberately to try and open that up and allow far more permeability into the site with views through to the RNA showgrounds and to use that space in an interactive manner. We also created a nice little bookend park, which Steve was very, very strong on. If we know opposite the Royal Brisbane Showgrounds, they have a large park on that corner. It was sort of a nice gesture, urban gesture, to have the park repositioned. I'll just slip through a few of these slides. Oops. Some of the other kind of big ideas we wanted to pursue was to look at the valet car parking. So we had an automatic car parking scheme which allowed us to put all of our car parking underneath the building, and freed the podium up and allowed us to have far more interactivity on the ground plane. It also uses far less energy. There are some concerns with cost, but those costs are coming down, especially with a number of other overseas companies now introducing that scheme. We also wanted to, one of the key aspects of the design was the idea of, when we asked a lot of people in focus groups, they tended to say, I'd live in an apartment as long as it was like a Queenslander. So we wanted to explore that idea, and you can see up on the top picture there, we've got clusters of 4 units, which creates a small group of inhabitants. And one of the key constraints, we think, is getting people to feel comfortable with their neighbours, and having a smaller grouping of people we saw is key to that. It's your next door neighbour, it's the person across the road, and we were trying to replicate that feeling in the tower where each person was able to say, well, I know my 4 neighbours. And then on each particular floor we had each 4 floors we had a little breakout space towards the north, which allowed groupings and people to come together if they needed to get out of their unit space. So I might just drill into some of the micro picture items as well. Oops. There's a diagram showing the unit layout. We were trying to achieve cross-flow ventilation to all the units and have a naturally ventilated, and our starting position was to have no air conditioning in the unit at all, and thereby taking that 18 grand saving and using it in other nicer features. We also were interested in pursuing some ideas which we'd been developing over time, which is having the outdoor laundry, instead of having the laundry inside, having them on the balcony, which allows natural ventilation. You don't need a dryer. It has a fold down sort of drying clothesline which folds down through those folded doors. And then we also sort of pursued the Queenslander idea with the back and front balcony, which allows you to capture the northern or the winter and the summer aspects depending on where the weather is at that time of the year. We also wanted to introduce some greenery, privatised greenery into the balcony spaces to allow people to have, I suppose, more of a sense of the ground plane. One of the complaints, or one of the ideas that we were trying to generate in our units was to actually have personalised space within your own unit, and that sense of having some green space on your balcony. It allows you to control it. It also modulates the view through, so it's a greener view through your own apartment. Just talking about the material out of the buildings, we were envisaging in working with Arabs precast panels with a cool panel system which has colour bond on the outside, thereby achieving a really, really high R value to the unit, and then also stabilising the unit temperature with the mass being internalised. And then the other aspect that we really pursued quite strongly was to have a higher floor-to-floor, which allows better cross-flow ventilation through the units. We envisage having solar hot water evacuated tube, which is very efficient, and we'd locate that on the roofs of the buildings, as well as have a green space below those panels. I suppose, in summary, the things that we really learnt out of this process was that it is possible to do a very different unit type. The key things are the efficiency of the core. Things that we saw were important. The efficiency of the core is very difficult to achieve with a cross-flow ventilation model in comparison to business as usual. Introducing, I suppose, green space into the balconies is very important as well, to try and soften the built form down. And then obviously looking at the materials very carefully to introduce high recycled content, reuse through careful selection of what you actually put into the building. Thank you.